My special guest, his life story is nothing short of extraordinary. From one of the UK's most wanted London gang members to spending 15 years as a Category A prisoner. He's walked through the darkest corridors of life, but today he's a successful CEO, author and TV personality. Now, he's shared his tale in a tell-all book, From Demons of Childhood to the Shadows of Crime. His autobiography unveils the journey inside some of the UK's darkest and most dangerous prisons. I would say what it was called, but then I would give you his name. It was released in 2003, and my guest is not just turning a new leaf, but helping others avoid the path that he once walked. Can you guess? Any ideas? Well, I'm pleased to say I'm joined by ex-gangster turned CEO, Stephen Gillen. Stephen, welcome.
Hi, Nana, how you doing? I'm loving the question mark.
Do you like the question mark?
I have to say, yeah.
Just a little curls to give away a tiny clue. Who is it? It's Stephen Gillen. Stephen, talk to me about your life then. What was it like growing up, and what kind of background did you have? What did your parents do?
Yeah, there's no excuses, of course, Nana. But the fact is, some of us are positioned for tough starts. You know, mine was like that. I was actually born here. I was taken over to Belfast, you know, as a small baby, 6 months old. This was in the early 70s when, you know, the war was over there. There was some bad times over there for everyone, and I stayed there until I was 9. So that was the start for me.
So you stayed there till it was 9. So you would presumably been there around the Troubles and everything.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened then after 9 years old? Where did you go, and what transpired?
Well, I see, you know, horrendous things, you know, that human beings do to each other in the middle of that over there in Ireland, right? You know, so I was already conditioned in a way. Although behind the door, my family was very religious. They was very kind, so I had a good foundation there. But of course, outside was chaos. My surrogate mother died of cancer, when I was aged 9, so it was deemed I must go back to England, so I was the little child.
So when you say surrogate mother, she carried you, but she wasn't your mother?
Well, I was left. My mother left me in Ireland when I was a child to come back to England to try and make a better life for us, but, you know, I didn't see her for all them years, so my surrogate mother was really my aunt.
No, your aunt, OK. And so she died, then did you go back to your mother?
She died of cancer, so, you know, I was a young child on the boat, you know, with nothing, going over to this alien place, this alien people, and I was with her at the start for a little bit, but I ended up in foster homes and children's homes, you know, a succession of bad places after that. So it kind of went downhill, really, when I come back very, very quickly. Oh,
no. So when did you find yourself sort of in a life of crime, and how did that transpire?
I think the conditioning is very important, as we know, you know, and you know, the environment, it definitely triggers us. I mean, we've got a lot of science behind this nowadays that explains this. So we have to be accountable, but there are explanations here of the roadmap of why it was so conducive, you know, for me, and I was so open to be groomed into that kind of a life. Yeah. I was your feral little kid on the street, really, in the East End, right? That's the bottom line. You know what they call you,
a little young man.
Yeah, but survival.
Yeah,
survival is the thing here. You know, you have to say it as it is, and you know what you do. You know, you're by yourself. You're carrying a lot of trauma. You don't have the right guidance, the right instruction. You haven't got that right comfort around you, and all that. You're an accident waiting to happen in many ways, and of course that did. You know, very quickly.
So you stumbled into what then, and kind of at what age were you when you sort of stumbled into a life of crime?
Well, I was very young, Nana. You know, it started early because there was a lot of brutality in some of the homes that I was in. Okay. So, you know, I was trying to protect some of the younger ones in there, but I myself was only a tiny kid. You know, it's quite brutal, to be honest. They should do all manner of things in there, so there was more violence, and you know, so we used to run away and all this stuff, and we'd do stuff, and that was the start of it. It was petty crime, then which went on to serious organised crime very, very quickly. How
did you get into organised crime, and what sort of things? You found yourself in a gang, and you know, how old were you, and you know, did you have an initiation process? What did you have to do to get into that gang?
Well, it starts early. It's a little bit more than that, you know, because of course we're looking for a family. We're looking to belong, right?
Yeah, of course.
And you're really open to that process because, we're your family. We've always got your back and all this stuff. And of course, this is what you're screaming for as a young child: that protection, that belonging, that being part of something. So it was really young, from 13, 14. I mean, the truth of it, as dark as it is, there was firearms and all this stuff around us by the age of 15, 16, and I was, ran some of the real, unfortunately, some of the real hardcore people was the only kind of role models I kind of had back then.
And you were first imprisoned when you were 14 for a few months. What did you do?
This was a fight, and it was a gang fight, and someone got hurt in there. It was GBH.
Really?
Yeah.
That's terrible.
It is.
And how is the victim okay?
Yeah, the victim's okay. This was the life that we was involved in. I mean, there's no excuses here. I'm not the excuses guy,
No,
and you have to be accountable. But the way to change this, like I do now, and get the messaging across, Nana, is say how it was, but how people need to be, because this is not a glamorized life. There's no good endings in this. I have to just say that.
So you spent then in 1991, so you were 22. Is that right? You were in prison for 17 years. What did you do to wind up in prison for that?
It was armed robbery. I mean, the truth of it was, I was in that life. I had been positioned in that life. Of course, I had the choices. I didn't know anything else. I was very engineered to be that person that I was at that time, and. It's very, they lock you in. But, the other thing as well, I have to say, is some of the people in that life, do they have good parts of themselves? Are they talented?
Well,
of course they are.
Of course they are.
They could have been anything else.
But
it
what
just
did
so
you
happened.
rob? What was it that you robbed, and what, It must have been bad for you to spend so much time in there.
Yeah, it was armed robbery, and the flying squad was involved, and there was an operation over a couple of years, so there was all this kind of things, and there was shots fired, unfortunately, on that robbery where I was finally arrested. It was a ready eye, they call it, which is like a police ambush, Nana, and that was the end of that, and I went to the old Bailey there, and that was the start of it.
What were you thinking then as they were sentencing you? I mean, and obviously, what's it like in your head being caught doing something that you know you shouldn't be doing, and then the thoughts that are going through your mind when you're then sentenced?
The truth was, Nana, when I look back at the person I had become then, I was something I was never meant to be, and that darkness had really come in. I had ran with that, but there's a lot of trauma, a lot of different stuff in there. So you're not in a good place, obviously. But when I stood in the Bailey that time, it was really strange. It's like serendipity in a bad way. I kind of knew that I was always going to get that, which of course is bizarre, right?
Yeah, so you went down for 17 years. Did you serve all of that 17 years, or did they let you out early?
I'd done 11 years and 9 months as a Category A, which is quite rare. It's quite rare because you're meant to come down, say, from A, B, C, D being open prison. So I didn't get any of that.
And then from there on, did you go back into prison, or was it at that point that you turned your life around and started doing things to help others?
What happened is I come out, I was institutionalised, I was still carrying a lot of trauma. And, I went back to the street, as it were, in the East End, and, I still wasn't in a good place, of all the stuff I'd been through in that sentence. If you think of 12 years, really even coping with normal society, I just wasn't there with it, Nana, right? There was a lot of stuff going on. I was arrested again with a firearm, which I had for protection because of all the stuff that was going on. So I was pulled back into it. So I went to prison, for 5 years for possession. I had done half of that. But when I come out after that, I'd seen through that life for a long time, Nana, and I'd wanted out.
What was it that specifically made you? So you did this second prison term, you served half of it, but there must have been a moment then that you thought, all right, that's it, I'm done with this. Was there anything in specific you could put your finger on? There
were many moments, through that, right, and I knew, and it was wrong, and you see through that, and But for me internally, I got to the point I couldn't hurt people no more. I couldn't hurt the people I loved, or anyone else for that matter. I just couldn't be the way, that I was, the way I felt, about myself. Or even people looking down on me, like, when I knew I was worth much more, right?
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So what was the first start of you sort of turning things around? What was the first thing that you did?
Well, I remember a guy, and at the start of this, and I never forget him, he said to me, "Stephen, you only need to change one thing." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Everything." It was so true, right? Yeah, I had the intellectual understanding of that, of course, but the penny dropping, for us as human beings is a different thing. So I'd done a lot of voluntary work. I helped a lot of the homeless. I used to wash the floors, make the beds, do the tea. I loved that. I had to get my humanity back. I went to university. I passed with honours. I got a business degree.
Well done.
I was kind of lucky in a way because my family had a building business at the time. But, I didn't get any favours. I mean, I got it worse, right? So I started at the bottom. I had to work my way, all the way through. But within 18 months, I'd, worked my way all the way through that and started my own first business. So that's the middle bit.
And what was your first business in?
My family used to do groundwork, so it was building roads, basically, really, really hard stuff out in all weathers. That's where we started. But my first company was a refurbishment business. I wanted to go inside, so. Yeah.
Don't blame you. I've been wanting to work indoors as well. I mean, I'm not doing any more roads. Roads where we're going, we don't need any roads. Name the film.
Huh?
Roads where we're going, we don't need roads.
You don't need roads.
What film is that?
I don't know. Which one?
DeLorean. Back to the Future, when it takes off. And
Back
says
to
that
the
at the
Future.
end. I love that film. I love all this.
Such an old one.
It's such a good one, though, isn't it? They don't make them like that anymore. So now you're reformed, you've turned your life around, you've got businesses. Are you a millionaire? Are you rich?
I still have to work very hard, Nana. Like
You
everyone
are.
else,
You've done it.
to maintain what we have.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a very grateful person. I'm a very boots on the ground person. Life has really given me a real depth. So I keep at it, and I'm just very privileged for everything that comes. I embrace it all.
Yeah, and your mission again, is it to help others as well, to sway them away from the past? Because I know you talk about that a lot.
It's definitely that. I mean, I do tours, public speaking tours. I've do a lot of work now. I won't mention who it is, but it's a major broadcaster. So, I do TV series.
You can tell us.
Well, I do a lot of work with Sky, right?
Perhaps not then, but
yeah. No, well, it is what it is.
No, that's great. That's great.
I mean, I'm in the middle of I just done some work with Ross Kemp. An amazing guy, really, really professional. Who's translating the dark corners, as it were, right, as we do as well. So I've just signed a 2-book deal as well. My next book, which was the first book, is actually called Extraordinary Stephen Gillen, The Search for a Life Worth Living. You said extraordinary earlier, but this is coming out early next year at the start of the year. There's a film behind that, and stuff like that. Wow. So it's amazing. I'm very grateful for all this stuff.
And finally, I always wonder whether your reality has sort of exceeded your dreams. So right now, has it exceeded what you thought you would be?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you go back to the dark days and you just said, hey, right, in 20 years or whatever, you're going to... I would have said, what? Are you taking? Right? That's what I'm saying. But, it is about the work, And one of the things that I really love about my journey is that it really shows that, look, we can turn things around. It is about choices. It is about ownership of what we're doing. It is about getting the right people around you. It is about really working at it, to be more, then you can help other people be more. And if we all do that, we have a wonderful environment for everyone.
So then, briefly, a pearl of wisdom that you would pass on to somebody else listening now.
I always say just to always do the next right thing. I mean, there's one thing, Nana, look, I've got something wonderful coming up, which is Flowcoin, which is, it's a decentralised currency. But, apart from that, I'm the brand ambassador for this charity, and they're putting a lot of money into this on their way to be regulated. But what this means for the inner cities, you know, for boxing clubs, for women's shelters, for all these wonderful charities that don't have money, is we're going to be able to do a lot of work with them. So I'm super excited about that too, I have to say.
So this is a charitable thing. If people want to find out more about that, is there somewhere they can go to find out more?
Well, it's Flowcoin, and look, you know, there's going to be a lot out about this. Yeah, in January. I don't want to, you know, I want to focus on the good stuff here.
Okay.
But this is to empower people, and we need that, right?
We need it, Steve.
This is the thing that we need to help us change as well. So. Well,
Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure to meet you too. It really is. Thank you.
That, of course, is the inspirational Stephen Gillen. He's a gangster turned CEO and a very successful man too. Interesting. We'll look forward to, we're looking out for this Flowcoin thing. It sounds great.